What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another gear build video. Been a while since I've gotten to do one of these, but today we're going to go over Pauline, one of the newest additions to the game. Pauline needs absolutely no introduction. She's already making waves in the competitive community, some even outright calling for bans because of her insane stats. Speaking of which, let's go into those now. Pauline has 20 strength, 16 speed, and then 9 in every other stat. When the game came out and we saw the original 10 characters, I thought it would be impossible to have more than 17 in any stat. I thought it would be a soft cap. Not only was that already out the window with Daisy's 18 technique, now Pauline breaks the record again by somehow getting 20 strength. Now, if you ask me, a slender female mayor from New Donk City shouldn't have more strength than a literal monster turtle, but that's way outside the scope of this video. Having 20 strength is already a huge W for Pauline. As I mentioned in my strength tier video, you rarely need to go above 17 unless you're going to max. So the starting point of 20 means you barely have to invest anything in strength, and you can even take off a couple points and still reach the 17 threshold. This also means that if you are playing in no gear matches, Pauline is the only character that cannot be knocked down by 9, 10, or 11 strength characters without a full charge. I mean, heck, Waluigi can't even knock her down unless he does at least a partial charge. And as if this strength wasn't enough, she also has every other point possible invested in speed. So we are looking at a character that is 5 stronger than Waluigi and just as fast. All without sacrificing anything useful, because strength and speed are the only things that matter for defensive characters. Needless to say, my 3 builds today are going to focus on maximizing the potential of these amazing stats. My first build for Pauline will have to be what I call the Waluigi killer. Most Waluigi builds focus more on speed, while investing just enough in strength to reach 17. Well, Pauline doesn't have to worry about any of that. She can get to nearly max speed and 17 strength, and still be able to carry decent stats elsewhere. This build is about as close as you can get to Waluigi's best build, so if you liked Waluigi already, I would recommend this one. This build uses the turbo helmet, the turbo gloves, no gear on the chest, and the Bushido sandals. Alternatively, you can also swap the turbo gloves for the knight armor in order to reach 21 strength and 23 speed. Overall, I think this build is more optimal for Pauline, but in this test, I will be using the first one. There isn't much to say about this build, honestly. Like I said, if you like Waluigi, this is going to be a 1-to-1 replacement. Pauline is definitely not one to score a lot of goals, so the more stats you put into strength and speed, the better. She doesn't need any shooting whatsoever. I just wanted to show this build as a comparison to what Waluigi already is, and after using it I would probably go with the build with the Knight Gauntlets instead, as that will bring you to 21 strength and Turbo Pad on top of that will put you at 25 speed. You might be wondering why I would go to 21 strength, and the answer is because Pauline can, but also it makes her tackles slightly longer and more powerful. Next up we have the Max Strength Demon, and once I saw these stats I almost threw up in my mouth. Keep in mind, I firmly believe 23 strength Daisy is her best build, because getting to max strength means you can walk all over teams that do not carry strong characters. Same goes for Wario. But keep in mind, when I ran these tank characters, they had a maximum of 7 speed. It just wasn't possible for any character to approach 25 strength and still have decent speed. But Pauline can hold 22 speed and 25 strength. This build uses the turbo helmet, the Knight Gauntlets, the Bushido armor, and the Bushido sandals. I've already noticed that my opponents instinctively do full charges against any Pauline because they know that it is required to take her down. And because of the max strength and high speed, this build is disgusting on both offense and defense. I used to love seeing the opponent struggle to tackle the Fat Wario or Daisy, but seeing them struggle while I'm still able to run past them at Toad speed is hilarious. This build is an absolute menace to the game. 25 strength makes her tackles shoot out insanely far, catching your opponents off guard, and even on offense she's perfectly fine plowing straight through the defense. Having low shooting and technique doesn't seem to matter when her job is literally to walk straight up and shoot it in Boom Boom's face. I think this was my favorite build of all 3. And last, I wanted to share a build that is a little more support oriented and is definitely much better than the first one. Just like I built Waluigi in the past, I never found it necessary to go beyond 17 strength, but since Pauline has so much, I decided to shove those points into passing. Honestly, 16 passing is on par with what most Toads and Peaches were running, and it's very rare to have insanely high passing because it just isn't necessary. So Pauline being able to get to 16 while still carrying 18 strength and 19 speed is amazing. Her shooting and technique may need some work, but hey, that doesn't really matter because all the shots make it in the net now anyway. This build uses the Bushido helmet, the chain gauntlets, the chain plate, and the Bushido sandals. Compared to the other builds of Pauline, this one feels much more team-oriented. Defensive characters in general struggle to contribute to their team in any way that isn't just being a beat stick, but having high passing makes a pretty big difference here. I would recommend this build for anyone who needs a more utility character, maybe if you're already running a couple of strong characters and you just need someone to fit a heavy role while also passing the ball well. Cross passes in this game are still good even though they are slightly nerfed, so this build is great for making those plays happen. I don't know if this would replace Muscle Toad as that is already a pretty popular pick, but it sure does come close with the stats. And there you have it, 3 builds for Pauline that are basically guaranteed to win you games. It's honestly hard to justify using Waluigi now, unless of course you want both on your team to have a solid defense. I will be working on Diddy Kong over the weekend, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.